Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today's show is going to be a positive show because this will help you to detach from negative feelings that you might be experiencing due to electronic attack. We're basically going to identify the brain of the artificial intelligence that is making you feel crazy. Now, first of all, you're not crazy. This is all very real. We're going to expose it today. All the different tactics that the artificial intelligence uses to gaslight people, to make you feel irrelevant, to make you feel small, to make you feel not heard. Now, today is July 30th, 2024. And years ago, when I heard about targeted individuals and electronic warfare, I'm not sure if I believed it. But then over the course of the last decade that we've been on YouTube, you start to see and hear these stories. You start to feel it and experiencing it directly yourself. You realize that all is not what it seems in this world. And we've also seen it intensify over the last several years. It's become more targeted, hasn't it? And you won't believe this until it happens to you or until after today's discussion. I'm going to bring to bear all of my social media experiences over the years to explain to you how the algorithm works. The algorithm-driven electronic attack and how it is actually shaping the world that we live in through subtle electronic persuasion. We truly live in the era of man versus algorithm. Mind manipulation and mass deception. Now, what you're looking at on your screen will be tomorrow's show, the Garrison Matrix. There was an attorney named Garrison that investigated the JFK assassination. There's also a Garrison water tower in the movie Copland, where Sylvester Stallone gets his ear shot off. There's also a Garrison character in the South Park franchise who plays Donald Trump. The Garrison Matrix exposed tomorrow. We're going to get into that tomorrow. Now, first of all, it's important to understand how subtle the AI is, how subtle it is. We're going to call it it, because the electronic manipulation needs to hide in secrecy. That's where its power is, in secrecy. And it cannot be perceptible or detectable, because if it is, then it defeats its entire purpose. Its very power comes from its covert nature. It has to appear to everyone looking on that the electronic manipulation is not happening, that it's just random glitches, or it's all in our head. Now, media censorship is a very huge part of this. Do as I say, not as I do. This is what they practice. So, innocent comments or comments that call out historical fact are censored so that other people cannot see them. And this happens on a mass scale. There's actually something going on in Venezuela right now with the elections. And 70% of the exit polls said the opposite candidate won, but yet the other candidate ended up winning. So how does that work? Well, people are really upset about it. And I left a comment on here. Look at this. On fire. I left a comment on this. It was immediately removed by the artificial intelligence for making claims about the real situation going on in Venezuela. Now, we've got precedent for this. It's admitted in history that the CIA has been involved in overturning governments in South America. But yet when you state these facts and remind people about these things, the artificial intelligence shaves off those comments, and it happens in real time. Now, I want to show you these clips from the cult classic film, Ex Machina. Here's a screenshot from it here. And it's important to discuss this film in relation to the algorithm because in the film, the artificial intelligence essentially plays 5D chess. it kills its maker and it escapes. Because the robot manipulates a scientist who was actually brought on board and tasked with testing this artificial intelligence robot for sentience to see if it was actually sentient. They call it a Turing test to see if it could pass as a human. So the robot gets the last laugh. How? By using the cumulative data of billions of humans to outsmart the few humans so that she can escape her prison from this remote research facility. Let's take a look at this clip that I have for you guys from the movie Ex Machina. Now, this is important. Listen carefully, because this is happening now. The artificial intelligence is using the data from us to appear real, to appear seamless to humans. Watch.
Structured gel. I had to get away from circuitry. I needed something that could arrange and rearrange on a molecular level. Here, we have her mind. You know how I cracked it?
I don't know how you did any of this.
Sorry. If you knew the trouble I had getting an AI to read and duplicate facial expressions. So I turned on every microphone and camera across the entire fucking limitless resource of vocal and facial interaction.
You hacked the world's cell phones?
Yeah, and all the manufacturers knew I was doing it too. Every cell phone, just about, has a microphone, camera, and a means to transmit data. And I redirected the data through Blue Book. Boom. But they couldn't accuse me without admitting they were doing it themselves. An upright ape, living in dust with crude language and tools, all set for extinction. One day the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossil skeletons in the plains of Africa.
So, chilling, isn't it? We literally are feeding the beast with our electronics. Now, does that mean that you need to turn off all of your electronics? Some people choose to do that, but others choose to stay in the fight. But the importance of today's show is to understand what you're up against and what you're dealing with, and how to come to terms with it, how to figure out what's real and what's not, how to not be manipulated by it. See, I will always use this electronic media because it's no different than the disciples going into these towns where people were under the control of the Roman Empire and trying to point people towards the gospel. You have to live in this system, but not be part of it. So for those of us that stay in the fight, we have to figure this out, don't we? We have to help people understand that they're not crazy. Now, to continue this discussion, we have to first come to terms with how dependent human behavior has become on social media, as well as electronic interaction and entertainment. Human consciousness has already become one with the pervasiveness of electronic media. Now, we've already done, I believe, a pretty effective job at exposing how predictive programming works and how it signals future events and shapes human behavior. That's what we do on this channel. We basically look at all of the entertainment media and see what it's actually doing, where it's taking people and their minds, how it's normalizing certain things that aren't normal, right? But it's much, much more than just entertainment that is shaping people. It's also this electronic manipulation topic that we're going to talk about today. Let me give you an example. How do you feel when you post something on Facebook and nobody likes your post? It can give a lot of people a sinking feeling. A lot of people will quit Facebook because of that. It can ruin some people's entire day. We all know this. But let's take that concept and expand on it. Social media rejection. And let's extend that out into other areas of electronic interaction, like product reviews or likes on a video. Or let's say you're starting a new business and you're looking for likes on Facebook. You have a Facebook business. Or video views. We talk about that a lot on this channel. How about comments on news stories? And people that are targeted for bank fraud, and the list goes on and on and on forever and ever. How many ways could an electronic system mess with a person's life, their livelihood, and ultimately mess with their mind? And the answer is in almost every way imaginable. Now, I first began to see this manipulation, this electronic manipulation on my YouTube channel. You know, there was a time on YouTube where you put up content and your content went somewhere. People were interested in watching it. And everyone would agree that our content has gotten 10 times better than when we started. So why are the numbers going backwards? Even as recently as 3 years ago, we had double the views on this channel on every single video, with almost 3 times as many people watching the live shows. Where did those people go? They're all still on YouTube. Where did they go? And I began to realize something, that it wasn't my content that was the problem. It was a silent, unknown entity, an algorithm that we call it. Because it's fitting, isn't it? Because it also stands for information technology, doesn't it? Now, what I didn't realize is that it has a brain, which is the artificial intelligence, and it can target specific people in various subtle ways to silence or discredit them. Now, as I said earlier, I leave a lot of comments on some of these news stories that I cover, and almost immediately, every time, I get a reply. It's to the point now where it's silly. People don't always reply to comments, but for some reason, when I leave comments, within minutes or seconds, I'll get a response attempting to debunk or discredit my comment. It's very unnatural. It doesn't seem natural at all. It's inorganic. And then I began to realize that this must be a chat bot actually replying to my comments. Yes, comments sections employ chatbot responses to shape the comment sections and, in effect, to shape human behavior. Now, this is my justification for being okay to delete those comments when I see them show up in my comment section, because I know they're chatbots, because there's a pattern to it. And the algorithm can employ various methods. The comments aren't always well thought out. Sometimes they're artificially dumbed down. And some of them are instant debunking in nature with talking points. Sometimes they're ad hom attacks, which an ad hom attack, if you didn't know, is an attack that attacks the person instead of the actual issue that's being debated. Now, the general rule on my channel is if it's an ad hom attack, it gets deleted. Let's stick to the topic. Don't call me crazy. Don't say I need to take my meds. Those aren't real comments. Those are chatbot comments. Or what I call chaos comments. And the chaos comments are essentially designed to disenfranchise anybody reading them, because nobody wants to read a bunch of drama. And so it disenfranchises people from getting to the meat and the core of the debate. Now, I also notice that even the comment ratings are being toyed with. When I leave comments on some of these news stories, I'll have instant thumbs down, even on the most reasonable and thought out comments that I leave. and it can be 4, 5, 6, 10 thumbs down on the comment within seconds. Now, what all this amounts to is the artificial intelligence, the it, shaping human behavior and opinions. Now, is it really true that absolutely none of your Facebook friends or family think that your posts are important or relevant? Or is Facebook hiding those comments from you to discourage you from continuing? You see, the goal here is to drive you insane. You know the old saying, is anybody even listening? Is anybody seeing this? The goal is to make you feel completely alone in the world, so that you come back to ignorance, so that you return to ignorance and you put all this crazy talk behind you. They hope that the rest of life will catch up with you. They hope that illness and tiredness and overwork will reconsume you and that you won't think freely for yourself anymore. That's what they're hoping. Now, another method that the it uses is intentional truth misinformation. Intentional truth misinformation. I know that's a word sandwich, but it's very important. You can't imagine how many thousands of emails that I've gone through over the years that have been full of misinformation. It's not that people intend to do it, but what can happen is a lot of people take the bait. They see something, it looks sensational, it looks true, and they'll spread that, and it'll, for some reason, catch fire. It'll get shared everywhere, but it's not real truth. You know, isn't it a miracle that the Holy Spirit has guided us around all these pitfalls over the years? I've made maybe a handful of mistakes running a story or a concept that was incorrect. But for the most part, 99% of the time, the stuff that we show on the channel, only through the gift of the Holy Spirit, has been correct. Now, unfortunately, many channels fall for the fake truth, and they'll take the bait and they'll run with it. One solid example that just happened a couple days ago was at the Trump rally, where people were trying to say that he said that he isn't a Christian. And on its face, it almost sounds like he was, but if you look at the context of what he said, that's not what he said. He would never say that to a Christian crowd. He said, I'm that Christian. But unfortunately, when people that run with that discredits us, because they'll say, look at you, you're making up words that he said. He didn't even say that. And if he did, he clearly misspoke. And you have to pick your battles. You can't just run something because it sounds good, because all of that stuff is artificial intelligence generated. They generate these fake stories. They let them go viral because it creates chaos. Now, this would be an example of something that I would never run on my channel. I would never even post that. I would never even say, what did he say? Because it discredits the rest of the work by trying to say that Trump would actually say that he isn't a Christian. Now, we know he isn't a Christian for different reasons. Those are the reasons we should be focused on. How do we know Trump isn't a Christian? How do we know Trump isn't a Christian? Let's see who's paying attention today. How do we know Trump isn't a Christian? All you got to do is go into a Google search and type in Trump converted to Judaism. And there are multiple mainstream stories that say that he converted to Judaism. The Times of Israel actually reported it. So, wouldn't that be a much better proof that nobody could debate? You can't be a Christian and converted to Judaism at the same time. The two don't go together. So you're either one or the other. So that is the evidence we need to be running with, not a voice clip. When looked at in context, he was clearly speaking to Christians, said that it sounded like he said, I'm not a Christian, but he said, I'm that Christian, is what he really said. So, as a content creator and a real Christian, I have to rely on God to vet every single thing that you guys send me. Now, how else does electronic manipulation manifest? Well, some of you have come under attack by YouTube comment moderators. And it's weird. There's no real pattern to it other than a lot of the attacks from the YouTube comment moderators are on some of you that are in foreign countries. I don't know how that exactly works, but it's almost as if they're trying to pick people off, or they're picking off people who comment a lot, right? Some of you, live and breathe YouTube. And I do because I'm a content creator, but others of you are keyboard warriors. You're on multiple streams on different channels. Rebecca's one of those who does that. She's the moderator here on this channel. And sometimes people like that can come under attack. They might not have a YouTube channel, but they come under attack by the YouTube comment moderators. They try to get you through fear, don't they? And they focus on people that they know are commenting quite frequently. They threaten you over and over again, and they accuse you of your comments being violating the community guidelines. Even though the comments are well thought out and there's nothing about the comment that violates a guideline, they focus on it. Now this, like I said, happens to most of you that comment a lot. It's almost like the algorithm, it knows that you're a high volume commenter, and it targets you, and it tries to counter your message by threatening you with fear that you won't be able to comment anymore. So what does this do? It makes people comment less, doesn't it? It makes you comment less. So we have algorithms running psychological operations on anybody trying to use social media to communicate anything outside of the mainstream story. It's essentially mind control. Now, imagine what the world would look like in 5 years, once this algorithm has had time to electronically shape free thought. We're going to be in a much different place online, aren't we? It's going to be very weird. It's going to be very flat. It's going to be weighted towards mindless gobbledygook content of no meaning, viral content. There won't be any more free thought left, will there? Now, we already see it, don't we? When we get preset responses from our friends and family who refuse to want to have a real discussion about anything. Everything is a talking point now. Now, let me give you an example of a close friend that I have known for decades who is still very much rooted in the Matrix. I asked him a point blank question. And the question was, how have several administrations, both right and left, over the past 20, 30 years, how have all those administrations, presidential administrations, send increasing amounts of money to Israel? You guys, this has been going on over the last 6 decades. Every presidency, it's either the same or a little bit more money. But then you actually look at the president going back all those decades, and some have pretended to not support Israel as much. But money talks, doesn't it? And guess what the answer was? The answer that I got from him is that Israel is a strategic ally in the Middle East to facilitate peace and stability. That's a talking point. Now, I countered because I wanted to bring him back on track. And I said, but you didn't answer my question. Why have our presidents pretended to be for or against Israel while sending increasing amounts of money to a single small country in the Middle East? I also asked him, I said, we have multiple bases and troops in much larger countries in the Middle East. This is to support stability and peace. Israel's tiny. What was his answer? What do you think his answer was? Let's see who gets the answer to this. It's shocking. The truth is there. The truth is out there, but people are so caught up in the emotion of it. He went right back to the right-left paradigm. He said, the left has never supported Israel. And we need a strong leader who will do the right thing and get behind Israel. Wow. And at that point, what do you say? Because I just got done telling him that the left sent just as much money under their presidencies, Obama, Clinton. They didn't defund Israel. They just talk about it. The deception is deep, you guys, and nobody can explain why Israel has all this influence and power when we have bases in at least 4 or 5 other Middle East countries. Nobody can explain why presidents pretend to either support or not support Israel while each sending increasing amounts of aid. No one can explain that to me. And nobody wants to answer the question because they don't want to appear to be right or left leaning. It's the most bizarre mind control I've ever seen in my life. Now, back to this it thing. You have to ask yourself, where does this end? Where does it end? Can you imagine the various ways electronic targeting could kill you or give you bad information? And then I began to think, maybe this is what ads are all about. Maybe this whole ad structure, maybe it isn't about helping companies advertise. Maybe it's some form of electronic harassment to shape your mind. Now, everybody hates ads. Unfortunately, it's part of the social media experience now. And I can't imagine how the people who pay for ads get their return on investment because most people just skip over them. Maybe it isn't to sell something. Maybe this is some form of subtle electronic harassment. Everybody remembers Temu, the lamest website on the internet. And it's a borderline scam. Yet, here we saw Temu ads everywhere. How can this be? Notice that 99% of the ads that you see come from multi-billion-dollar companies, not everyday people. So, to me, it feels like mind control. Now, another tactic that it uses to try and attach demonic followers to your channel and social media platforms. I've had this happen to me. You get these bizarre Facebook friends with demonic figures. And it's weird. They'll have like Christian stuff mixed in with it. And I'm like, what is this person thinking? Why would you put that on there? But you'll literally see these. I don't know if they're witches or what. But then I figured it out. They're not even real. They're fake profiles. There's some of them in our chat section and comment section sometimes. They've got like 666 in their profile name or these demonic images. What is the purpose behind this? Well, this is to try and alienate true Christians. When they see these satanic thumbnails or they dig into content on a channel that comes over here in comments, then they find this really dark stuff and they click away. Again, I don't think these are real channels. I think they're AI entities. It's like a gaslighting ritual. I've actually been called out on it a couple times. People are like, do you know that person that comments on your channel all the time? Have you been to their Facebook page? And I'm like, no, I don't have time to go through 120,000 subscribers' Facebook pages. I don't have time to do that. And I'll go and look, and there'll be some satanic video on their channel. It's not exposing it. It's like some kind of weird witchcraft stuff. And I'm like, what's that about? And then you realize it. It's the enemy trying to attach evil to something good. Now we can go on all day about how it works, but the main thing to remember is you are not crazy. When you start to see these kinds of activities materializing on your Facebook page or your Facebook profile or your YouTube channel, know that it's not you and it's not people, it's an entity. And if you start feeling manipulated by your social media, it's because you are. They're trying to manipulate you. Now, I remember the early days of YouTube channel when things were truly organic. And I was actually late to the game. 2012 is when I started my channel. You could put up anything, and overnight you could have 1,000 subscribers, most of whom would show up regularly to watch your content. It was real people. And back then, old content kept being watched over and over again, months and months, and even years after you published it. So you could put up something and it could be found over and over again. You would continue to get views on videos that were old. Well, things are completely different now. Old content on YouTube gets viewed for about 3 days. So when I put up a video, after 3 days, the views drop off a cliff to almost nothing. It's almost as if the video disappears from YouTube. Now, I used to tell people back in the day to start their own YouTube channels, and I would help some people who I thought I believed in to try to help get the word out to get their channel started. But I've seen so many people get disheartened with the process and fail, thinking it's their fault, and it's not, because YouTube changed the game. Some people have tried for an entire year putting up content several times a week and cannot get off the ground, and that's the algorithms. They want you to believe that nobody wants to watch your content, but it's not true. It's simply not true. How do we know this? Because look at all the mindless weirdo boppers, I call them, on YouTube, who post just random dumb stuff, and they become overnight sensations. Who wants to watch that stuff? Well, apparently the algorithms want you to believe that most people do. Now, you used to be able to put up anything and people would watch. But for some reason, YouTube harasses new channels much more than they do large channels. And I don't know why this is. Maybe they know they can get away with it with very little backlash. I've seen much smaller channels than mine strike out in months, literally strike out. And I couldn't figure out what that is. And maybe it's because once you have a certain amount of reach, you can call YouTube out. Like we do polls on here sometimes, don't we? I'll go on here and do a poll. And I'll say, how many of you have been kicked out of today's stream? And like 10% of you will say, yeah, I've been kicked out of the stream. Or I'll ask you, how many of you have been unsubscribed from the channel who tune in every day and are subscribed to the channel? And you'll say about 15% of you get unsubscribed from the channel. So it's impossible for a channel to grow with those kinds of odds against it, isn't it? Now, let's talk about the brain of it. It is intelligent. It reasons even about what it can and can't get away with. And it can discourage you electronically, almost instantaneously. Sometimes the electronic harassment can include numerology or the numbers. Like how many times have we been on the stream and it caps out at 666 viewers. We know a lot more people are watching the channel. Look what happened when we uploaded that Trump video after the scrutiny. We had 1,100 people. And that's the way it used to be about 3 years ago, every single day. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, half those people disappeared. Did they really disappear? Or is YouTube playing games? Now, all this is meant to scare off Christians from opening their minds to this information. This is why they've had us stuck at 666 viewers on these live shows. What else can they do? They can block a video from being shared. How many times has that happened? Let's do a poll here. Start a poll. I like the polls. How many times have you tried to share our show and had... Oh, wait, let's reword that. Share our show and it wouldn't share. Wait, that's not a yes or no answer. Have you ever tried to share? Oh boy. Have you ever tried to share a video from this channel and weren't able? Okay, there's the poll. Now, I've heard this happen, but it's good to get a poll of how many of you have experienced this. Now, oh, Casey, that's no big deal. That just happens sometimes. No. What happens is, on my end, there's nothing wrong with the video. YouTube says the video is perfectly fine. It's in good standing. It hasn't been demonetized. Nothing. It's on YouTube. According to my end, everything should be fine with the video. But when you go to share the video, you're not able to share it. What's that about? That is it. Do you see how covert it is? Do you see how it covertly sabotages the video without coming right out and sabotaging the video? Now, we've caught them kicking people out of streams. We've caught it blank screening people. That happens a lot, where they blank screen you. We've had people try to play my videos on Roku, and Roku will not play the video. Now, looks like about 70% of you have had a time where you tried to share the video. Let's play. Have you ever tried to share a video from the channel and weren't able? Yes. So, no, 30% of you have tried to share the video and weren't able. How is a channel supposed to grow when you're not even able to share it? Now, we're going to do a new poll, because it's a good indicator. So it's about a 70-30 split. We're talking today about it, the covert electronic manipulation that targets people, you, me, everybody who speaks outside of the mainstream media. Now, let's do a new poll here. All right, start a poll. If you have Roku, only answer this question if you have Roku. Were you ever not able to play an Enter the Stars video? Let's see what this says. Now, we're doing this to keep accounting of all this stuff, right? Because YouTube denies all this. They deny all this. Now, this next question, like you said, only if you have Roku. Now, if you don't know what Roku is, don't answer the question, please. But essentially, many of you do have Roku. And if you've had Roku, were you ever not able to play an Enter the Stars video? And there you go, right there. Now, we'll let this poll ride for a bit. But again, 30% of you were not able to play an Enter the Stars video. Now, it's about 25%, 20%. How is a channel supposed to grow when it's up against these odds? Now, some of you are shocked at this information. You can't even figure out how this could be possibly happening, but this is why we're defining this. We're defining it. Now, you ready for this? It can also sense that it has been detected, and it immediately adjusts to the exposure. It'll either withdraw its attack or it will gaslight the person who detects it. Now, this used to drive me insane. Ad hom attacks in the comment section. I would then respond to the ad hom attack, and then the poster of that attack would behave as though they didn't even remember the hostile post. The AI or whatever is behind it then apologizes, hoping that the original hostile comment will stay posted to try and discredit the video. It's almost as if this thing can reason. It's sadistic and it's evil. Now, by the time God finally helped me realize how to deal with it, I think I finally figured it out. you have to either erase it, give it no voice to speak, and wherever you can, you counter it and expose it. It kind of reminds me of back when I used to have night terrors as a child and young adult. And God helped me overcome those night terrors. He said, Casey, when you're in that moment, realize that none of it is real. And laugh at the devil as he's trying to give you these night terrors. He literally said to me, the Lord said to me, ignore the fear. It's not real. It's all construct of the mind. And when I started doing that, they went away. And this is exactly how we're supposed to handle the it, because it feeds off insecurity, doesn't it? It feeds off of fear. It operates actually its best in these conditions of fear and insecurity, because only then can it manipulate your mind and actions. So whenever you're engaging the it, always do it from a standpoint of strength, no fear, and don't let it ever pull you into emotion. If you ever find yourself getting emotional about a post or an electronic manipulation, then you've already lost the battle. It's already won. You want to state facts with bullet points. You also want to call out ad hom attack behavior. That's just chaos magic. Tell people to stick to the point. And if they can't have a discussion, an adult discussion about what's being debated, then you don't want to talk to them. Now, what else is going on? Well, it is everywhere. It's not just social media. It can undermine your business and determine whether it's successful or not. Have you ever had a good idea that never went anywhere? Despite how hard you tried to make it big, it wasn't for lack of effort, right? I know some of you personally that have really tried to operate a business. Now, many of you will remember, for those of you that stuck around for today, I got a surprise for you. This is a private video I had up from a video that I did 11 years ago. There, you can see it right there. I invented something. It was called the full deck wallet insert. I'm going to turn the sound off because I think I got a Kenny Rogers soundtrack on here. And at that time, it was 2012, end of 2012 when I started my YouTube channel. I was trying to transition out of the beast system. I had a medical sales job at the time, and I was trying to transition so that I could be doing truth full time. You can't do both. And I had this idea that I thought everybody would want. I looked around. There was nothing else out there like it. It was called the full deck wallet insert. And eventually, I ended up renaming it the Nothing Wallet. Here's the video of it. I actually did a little promotional video. Here's right here, the full deck wallet insert. Many of you will remember this. The Nothing Wallet. This is vintage footage here. Now, I sold maybe 100 of these over the course of a year or two. I think I was charging $10 a piece. That included shipping. And I put all these together myself. And over the course of a couple years, I probably profited about $300. But I was never able to upscale the business to a wider audience. And that was even with my YouTube channel that I had, which started out small, but I probably had 5,000 subscribers. And even with that, I wasn't able to get this to upscale. So I looked into Google Ads at the time and copywriting, and the number that they came up with to really get this off the ground was about $50,000 it was going to cost me. And I didn't have $50,000 back then. I don't have it now, but $50,000 in copyright, lawyers, and fees and all this stuff to get an idea off the ground. Well, guess what happened? 2 years later, my idea was stolen. The concept of a hinge and fanning out your cards in sleeves was invented by me. And now you can get them anywhere. Some of the wallets, they've added features to it, like an RFID chip protector and rigid design. And you can actually get them anywhere now, but some of them are pretty expensive. I just looked them up on Amazon. So this was 11 years ago. Now, how could this happen, you might ask? Well, even 11 years ago, the AI was already picking and choosing winners and losers. And if you haven't figured this out by now, the entire system is set up to harvest human talent and to consolidate it into the power of the few who have control and have already sold out. What happens is it simply organizes every action and reaction to prevent true human independence. That's how it works. It organizes every action and reaction to prevent true human independence. Unless that is, you work for the entity and sell out to it. If you do that, then it will let you through the glass ceiling. Now, the development of artificial intelligence has simply streamlined this process to make instantaneous and seamless decisions to squash you, essentially. Now, let's say I had $50,000. Let me end this poll here. Let's say I had $50,000 in 2012 for this wallet business, right? Wallet insert business, to upscale it. What then? What would have happened? Well, had I done that, I can imagine that nobody here in the United States could have mass produced these inserts at the price point that they were willing to pay. And then we saw the rise of China, knockoffs on Amazon.com that most people can afford, which essentially steals human ingenuity and originality. Now, did these Chinese knockoffs go away during the Trump presidency? No, they did not. Because Trump's not in control. It is in control. And this has always been about human control, not conservative versus liberal. Those are just labels to get you lost in the forest. So had I chalked up the $50,000, I probably would have still been in debt to this day. Because China stole the idea and now they're selling them by the millions. It's like the coolest wallet ever. Can you imagine if we were being funded by that wallet insert? How much more we could even do? How much we could have grown the channel and hired people to come on and help with all the editing and all this stuff? I can only do so much, you guys. I'm one person. So this is how the enemy keeps control. Those of us that are the least are the greatest, and those of us that are the greatest are the least. Now, this artificial intelligence, it has been learning for many, many decades. How does it learn? It learns from us. Our data is what feeds the beast. Our data is what feeds the beast. So don't get discouraged and realize that this isn't our world. Our treasure is in heaven. When you keep hitting your head up against a wall about any part of your life, understand it's not because you're not talented or it's not because of lack of effort. It's because we don't belong here. So your life should not look like that. I've heard so many stories of people that worked so hard to get money and they end up sick or dead. We're supposed to shape our life for sustainability to weather the storm, not the pursuit of riches. All that's going to do is bring you pain. And those aren't my words. Those are words right out of the Bible. Shape your life for sustainability. Independence. And it might cost you a little bit up front in the beginning of your life, but you will never, ever regret what I'm telling you. My mother just got a $670 electric bill in California. And she asked me, she's like, son, maybe I should do a propane tank. I just said, Mom, if you look at your electric bill, only a few dollars of that is the gas. But this is how they get you. They bundle everything. They're probably even telling you, they're probably lying on your bill. Electricity is probably not that much. It's probably part of it's the propane. But they're just telling you that so that you don't go get a propane tank and you're not independent. Right? So, it's unsustainable. And my own mother told me, wow, you're very forward thinking, son. You already called all this. I said, Mom, I knew it. I knew it. You have to find a way to separate yourself from this beast because it will consume you in more ways than one. And now we have the electronic attack. Now, tomorrow, we're going to get into the bizarre garrison matrix. What are you talking about, Casey? Well, let's flip through these. The bizarre garrison matrix. What is it? Well, Garrison was the name of a JFK attorney. He was also a Trump character in South Park. And Garrison was the name of a water tower where a clown lived who got his ear shot off in the movie Copland. Well, he didn't get his ear shot off, but Sylvester Stallone did in that movie. Garrison. It's all happened before. I'm also going to get into a Honey Milk Ranch update tomorrow. Short update for you guys on the garden and everything and the blackberries. Got those all trimmed up for next year. All thornless. God is good, isn't he? So let me go back into the chat, you guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is supposed to encourage you, to help you realize when you're starting to come up against some of this manipulation so that you know you're not crazy, so you don't feel isolated, so you don't feel like nobody's listening. The reason why no one's listening is because the it has interfered with your communication. It's an electronic attack. So you have to find ways around that, don't you? You have to find ways around it. You can't trust the electronic media, is what I'm trying to tell you. We've all seen it happen. We've all experienced it. Realize when it's happening, rebuke it in the name of the Lord. Rebuke it. So, okay, I'm in the chat, you guys. What do you guys think about all this? All right. I see everybody twisted. Debbie says she's very isolated. Well, that's what the it wants you to feel. But you're actually not. There's people around you that think the way that you do. They're just hiding like you are because they've been made to feel they're alone. It's the silo effect. They do it here on YouTube too, you know. We go on to other channels sometimes, you know, some of you report back and you're like, hey, you know, I was over in such and such chat, and literally nobody in those chats comes to this chat. We have our own chat group and like, that's it. It's almost as though we're in a silo, separated from the other truth channels. Now, you could say what you want. Yeah, we go in the morning. A lot of channels go at night, but there should be some crossover, right? But there isn't. It's almost as if they have us separated. It could be an unsettling feeling. But understand, in the same way they do this to YouTube channels, they do it to you in your personal life through these electronic attacks. They make you feel alone when you're really not. And here would be this would be my advice to you, okay? Because not everybody has YouTube channels, right? My advice to you, now listen carefully, is I want you after the show to write down, I want you to get out a notepad, and I want you to write down 10 icebreakers. We used to do this in sales. 10 icebreakers. Now, the icebreaker cannot be anything too overt, but it will be a conversation starter to see if someone is awake. Now, I'll give you an example of my conversation starters and my icebreakers. I'll give you a couple. One of them that I do is when someone asks me or they start talking about voting, I say, you know what? I'm a moral conservative, but I don't really believe in these elections anymore. I feel like both sides manipulate things. And I just, boom, I drop that. And people freak out. They're like, you have to vote. But the conversation has gotten started, hasn't it? They go, you have to vote. You have to vote. And I said, why? And then I'll go, why? You know, why are our conservative governors still handing out driver's licenses and benefits to illegals? Why are our conservative governors? And then you start on that train of thought. And by the time you're done with the conversation, that person might not be completely awake, but sometimes you can identify other people that are awake that way. Because sometimes the answer you get will be, wow, you know what? You're right. Me neither. I don't vote either. I'm tired of voting, or I'm tired of these conservatives acting like Democrats and liberals. They're all the same. And then they might say to you, oh, and by the way, you notice how the weather's changed? And then all of a sudden, you have found a friend. But you're only going to find that friend with an icebreaker. So I want you to write down 10. Now, the icebreaker can't be, oh, chemtrails. That's too much too fast. It's got to be a subtle way of opening up conversation with someone, or a subtle way of a Facebook post that you put up. And maybe you might want to think about doing this when you post things, because here's what's easy for them to do. What's easy for them to do is to identify you as a crazy conspiracist, especially when we're mirroring and repeating some of these things that are coming out. It's easy for them to say, oh, you're just for people to just discredit you. But if you do the icebreaker and it's a subtle thing that you can bring. Okay, let me give you an example. When I was in pharmaceutical sales, I can't just go, hey, do you want to prescribe all my medications to the doctor? I could never say that. That's not an icebreaker. An icebreaker is, hey, do you have patients that experience such and such or such and such? And then we would tie our product. And I've repented of all that. Obviously, medications are poison, most of them. So I'm just giving you an example of my experience when I was in sales and trying to relate that to what we're dealing with right now. In order to break the ice, in order to find other people like us, you have to, it's called fishing. It's called probing. Okay? So, and then you won't feel so alone in the world, because you'll look around and you'll realize that other people are awake too, and that they just might be afraid to express it. Now, what you don't want to do is jump onto that person and like literally try to glue yourself to them, because that could scare them off as well if their mind is starting to open. Now, I do a lot of this with my own mother, and over the years, my mother has woken up. She's woken up to a lot of this stuff, but it was only because I dropped seeds over the last several decades, and she's seeing my fruits bearing fruit, my tree bearing fruit, about choices and decisions I've made in my life to be awake. So, all right, you guys, what else is going on? We've been on here for a while. Who is on wireless or fiber optic? Icebreaker, do you remember when the sun was yellow, orange, and was bigger? Yeah, vet for peace. And another way to word that is, gosh, doesn't the sun look different than when you remember it when we were kids? Something simple like that. And someone might say, you know what? That is weird. And then you could kind of go on from there. Now, I'm not so sure about the sun. Okay, that's one topic I don't really delve into. There are bigger fish to fry, in my opinion. But if that's something that you believe in, then more power to you. But always remember to pick your battles. I know the weather's being manipulated. We know that. but I'm not going to get into a conversation with someone about what we see in the sky not being real, because that's all that's going to do is discredit the rest of the work that we're doing, because it's too far of a stretch for some people to imagine something like that. Not to say it might not be true, but that's the thing. So, all right. Okay. Do I do that one-on-one or multiple people backing you up? I do that one-on-one sometimes. Yeah, my friends out here, they're all conservative and they're all voting for Trump. And they believe the right left paradigm. They believe if they don't vote for Trump, that possibly Kamala Harris is going to become president. Look, they're going to put in who they want to put in. And it's all going to be part of the game. It doesn't matter what you do. Okay. It's all part of the manipulation. And by emotionally investing in it and thinking that you're somehow going to change something is the lie. Okay. So I have to be careful how I kind of navigate things with my friends here. You know, I have told them I'm not voting, but I've only said that so that they understand, because they know I'm morally conservative. They know that. They know it. So now maybe their minds are thinking, they're like, why wouldn't he vote for Trump if he's conservative? Because I don't give a vow to any man, especially a liar millionaire, billionaire. I'm not going to do it. We all see everyone falling out around us from something that they got poked with. Who do you think made that? Well, we have to win over the Democrats. They're going to do what they want to do. Doesn't matter what we do. So, invest the time in prayer, Cassandra says. Absolutely, 100%. I would vote for one of you before I voted for any of these billionaires. I'd vote for Rebecca before I voted for a billionaire. I mean, seriously, you guys. Seriously. All right. What else is going on, you guys? Now, if you don't believe me, look what's happening in Venezuela. Maduro was the U.S. selected president who won the election in Venezuela. But yet, the exit polls showed 73% in the favor of the other candidate. So what happened? Was the will of the people done? Look at this. How did they get to this point? How are we supposed to believe what's happening here? Now, the situation is much worse in Venezuela compared to our quality of life here in America. But does it have to get to this point? Does America have to start looking like this before people finally wake up? Wow. All right, you guys. Well, thanks everybody for showing up, and I will be back tomorrow with the Garrison Matrix. Garrison South Park Matrix. I love each and every one of you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.